Alright, welcome to the class. We're going to start out by drawing the cap of the mushroom, and then we'll draw the stem. So I'm using my white colored pencil, and this sketch needs to be very simple, very basic. All we need is an outline of the mushroom. No details are required. And the view we're drawing is from slightly below the mushroom, so we're seeing a little bit of the underside of the cap. Therefore, we'll draw this long, skinny oval at the bottom of the arc of the cap. I would also grab an eraser and erase a little bit of that underside of the cap that ends up being behind the stem. So I'll clean that up and then also add the top line of the stem. Alright, we're going to grab our light blue Posca marker, and we're going to start adding in the first layer of color. And you'll notice that this first layer soaks into the paper. That's why we'll end up adding in two layers. One initial layer to seal the paper, and then one more on top of that. And we'll end up with the appropriate brightness and color. And by adding these two layers, we'll then be able to go back and add in our other colors, and they will be very bright and vivid. You'll notice I'm starting at the top of the cap of the mushroom and drawing these lines. We're not going to color in the mushroom all the way, in other words, not solid. We're dragging these lines down towards the bottom edge, and we'll do this on both the cap and the stem. Be sure the first layer is nice and dry before you go back with more paint, because you don't want it to come up your marker with partially dried paint. You may notice that I had to switch to a larger marker, but that was only because my one marker was drying up and out of paint, and the only other marker of this color that I had available was a thicker 5M one. In this segment, we're going to grab a violet Posca marker and color in the underside of the mushroom cap. Nothing special is needed with this. All we're going to do is color it in solid. Alright, we're going to grab a red Posca marker and start on our next layers on the mushroom body and cap. We'll focus on the outer sides of the stem. Try to have these lines be very wispy and feathery, and as you can see I do these very soft wispy lines with a quick motion of the wrist and fingers. We'll leave the middle of the stem blue without any red. We'll also focus on the lower half of the mushroom cap, and as you can see I drag the lines more up on the far side on the left and right. These lines need to be random and loose. We don't want it to look organized and mechanical. We want it to look natural. Alright, so now we're going to add in several layers. We'll add in pink and then orange, and we're going to add it to the areas of the mushroom stem and the cap that we didn't add the red to. So near the middle of the stem and the upper half of the cap. And again, we want these lines to be long and loose. And once more, we're not covering up all of the blue and red. We want some of those colors to show up. Also, as you see, getting towards the edge of where I'm adding the pink, we need to space out our lines so that we slowly flow into the red and diminish our color that we are currently working with. with this orange layer, I'm not going to go to the very edge of where I've colored the pink on its left and right, but instead I'll stop just before that so that the pink shows up and goes beyond where the orange will be. And you will see how I do that, especially on the stem. We're going to grab a yellow now, and be sure to shake up your yellow especially well. I've found that yellow Posca markers need shook up especially well before each use, so that they show up very well and bright. We're going to drag these loose lines down over the cap of the mushroom towards the left and right, and we'll also work in the middle of the stem, being sure to leave some of that orange and pink showing up in all areas. And concerning the cap, try to have the ends of the lines at the very bottom towards the lower part where we'll be putting it to be loose and feathery and thin at the ends of the lines. And you get this effect by dragging the marker and quickly lifting it. We'll also add this yellow to the sides of the mushroom so that it looks like it's glowing. Okay, now that the first layer of yellow has dried, we're going to go back and add in a second layer, and we'll do this around the top and edges of the cap, dragging down a little ways. We're not adding it on the entire area of yellow, just where we want it to be the brightest and most solid. And you also see that I go around the edge of the cap near the bottom of it and add in a little ring of yellow right there at the edge above the purple. Now we're going to grab our straw yellow Posca marker and add in our highlights right along the top and edge of the cap and also the bottom edge of the cap. We're dragging these lines down just like we did with the other colors, and we'll go about a quarter of the way down the cap. We'll also focus on the center column of the stem, adding in some nice bright yellow lines there. And in case you don't have a straw yellow, you can also use a white. Alright, now we'll grab a black marker and we're going to work on the underside of the cap. We're going to do some stippling and add in lots of little dots over the purple, and this will be the first layer that we add under here. And the reason we're doing this stippling is because we don't want to just color over the purple. We want to tone it down. So we achieve this with Poscas by stippling and obscuring the purple a bit. Now we'll come in with a red and we'll go on the very bottom, or in other words the far side of the underside of the cap, and we'll do some more stippling just along this edge and feathering it a little bit or blending it into the black ever so much. Now that the red has dried, we'll go in with a third layer, this time in orange, and we'll use this right at the very edge of this area and add it in over the orange, but only at the very outer bottom edge. Alright, now that the cap has had time to dry, we're going to come back with a white marker and add in some highlights to the very top and edge of the cap, and also along the ring of the cap and the very center of the stem. Alright, we're going to do a very simple mouse and tree bark background. We want it to be quite simple because we don't want it to distract from the mushroom. So we'll start with a dark green Posca marker and we'll add in these random little lines that for the most part flow down and away from the mushroom, but some of the lines are more scribbly. We'll add in 2 layers of this dark green. The first layer to seal the paper, and then the second layer will go on top and appear brighter. And in a way, we'll get 2 tones of this dark green. And when adding in the second layer of the dark green, we're not going to cover up the first layer 100%. We'll only cover it maybe 75%. Alright, now we'll grab a regular brown Posca marker and add in some of the bark right below the green moss. And we're not coloring in solid, we're doing these random scribbly marks. And you notice that on the upper side I'm adding in a second layer so that the brown is a bit brighter and it looks like it's reflecting the light of the mushroom. Now we'll grab a light green and add in these stippling marks for the reflection and highlights on the leaves. And we'll do this over most of the dark green marker. Now that the light green has dried, we'll grab a black and add in the shadow around it, going near and beside the light green marks. Alright, I'm going to grab my yellow again. In this final step, we're going to add in the sparkles around the mushroom, so it really looks like it's glowing. These could be sparkles or the spores flying in the air. So what you notice, like when we started on the mushroom itself, the first layers of these dots will be very light and in my case absorbed a bit into the paper. So what I will do is once the first layer of the dots have dried, I'll go back with a second layer, going back over the ones that are closest to the mushroom cap, and I think I might even add in 2 or 3 layers so that the ones right beside the cap really show up and are bright. But still, we don't want them to be too bright and distract from the mushroom. And with that, we will be done with this drawing. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this class. Please feel free to post a picture of your drawing so that all of us can see what you did. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to start a discussion below this video, and I will be happy to answer your questions. If you would like to support me, please check out my website at andysartitude.com, and feel free to visit me on Instagram and Facebook, where you can see daily updates of my artwork at Andy's Artitude. Stick around here and follow me, because in the coming weeks I will be uploading more classes. That's been it for now. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in the next class.